All right. We are live streaming. Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
Hello again, Judy.
Welcome
Not
to.
ready. I don't see
You ready?
that.
We are
Yeah.
live streaming. Not yet.
Pardon me?
Okay.
It says we are.
Good morning, everybody.
Hello again, Judy.
Welcome
Not ready.
to.
Okay, so we're all set, Peter. Yes, we're all set. Okay. Sorry, Judy, go ahead.
Action.
Okay. I think Dr. John is still not here, so we're missing 2 members. Am I correct?
Correct.
All right, but we do have a quorum. So it's 8:04, so I am going to get the meeting started if everyone's okay with that.
Good.
Suzanne, did Dr. John RSVP that he was going to participate?
I didn't hear from him.
You did. Okay. All right. So probably next month when you send out, just maybe ask the members to RSVP you that they're coming, okay? When you send
Sure.
an email. Okay, good.
This meeting is being recorded.
All righty. All right, so I'll just briefly start over. I'm calling together the meeting of the Glens Falls Industrial Development Agency. This is our May meeting. It's May 12th. We have a quorum. We do have a few members missing. Mayor Bell Collins and Dr. John Cordes are not with us. Dr. John may be joining us later. In the meantime, we do have a quorum, so we're going to start the meeting with the agenda that has been released to the public and to the members. We're also joined by key staff and advisors, consultants and guests, and so it'll all be recorded on our minutes, and you can see it live on screen right now as well. Just a brief chair report. We will be joined later in the meeting by Kate Jarash, who is with Spring City Development Group, LLC, and they have submitted an application to the IDA for a project at 26 Elm Street, 41 Elm Street, and 45 South Street. I'm sorry, 41 South and 45 South Street. That is also on our agendas. When Kate joins us, we'll switch over to her and have her presentation. We just received this application. This is a project that several of us are familiar with because it's related to the Downtown Revitalization Initiative. Spring City Development Group is a subsidiary of the Bonaccio Construction Organization, and they were selected to be the developer of that property by the city through the Local Development Corporation and the City of Glens Falls. So we will get into that later. I don't think we're going to take any action today yet. Jeff is still reviewing the application. We've also sent a copy of it to Kara Leas, our attorney, and so it is under review. But I thought it would be worthwhile for Kate to come in and to talk a little bit about the project to you and bring everybody up to date on where it is since we've last talked about this. And so that's what we're going to do today and not take any kind of vote. And I think as soon as Jeff and Kara sign off on that application and determine that it's complete, we'll send that around to the members and release that to our files, to our public files as well. We do have 2 other project reports, and so we will be talking later in the meeting about 88 Ridge Royal just briefly, and then 1525 Park Street. We are going to be talking about giving that project possibly an extension, and I'll have Kara and Jeff report on that later as well. But that project has as most projects around here are experiencing supply chain issues. And so not quite on schedule if you can't get your materials and your laborers to the site as quickly as you'd like. Seeing the same in some of my projects. So let me go to administrative reports unless people have questions for me. Okay. So we had joint committee meetings that we did on March 10th as part of our annual meeting. And we also have our annual meeting minutes. We didn't have them ready for our last meeting, but we were able to send them out earlier this week. I'll take those two items up first. Does anyone have any questions or comments on the joint committee meetings or the annual meeting minutes from March 10th, 2022? There being none, is there a motion to approve those minutes as presented?
So moved.
Jane, second.
Second, Deloa, second.
Second, Mary Gooden. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? Any abstentions? There being none, the minutes are passed as presented. The board meeting that we held on April 14th, those minutes are also provided and the members have had those for a few days to review. Are there any comments or changes to the minutes from the April 14th meeting? There being none, is there a motion to approve those minutes as presented?
I'll make it.
Lois?
Second.
Jane, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those minutes are approved. Thank you all. The financial report for the IDA for 4 months of the year ending April 30, 2022. Mark, thank you for being here. Got
Yep.
anything you want to say about those financial reports before we take it up for vote?
The only changes on the IDA were the Whittemore bill, the final for of the audit, $3,945, and a Fitzgerald bill for $167.53. As we stated before, all the due tos, IDA from CDC and LDC were satisfied when those checks cleared. So that zeroed itself out. As far as the Paris report, there were, I think, one item was we had to change the closing date on the Warren Street, the old post office building. I gave them the new project. I didn't include that before. It wasn't on Suzanne Kasich pilot report until you brought it up, Judy, with Suzanne. We included that after the fact. So that is on the Paris report now for 1525 Park Street. And that, and I had to shift my pay. They wanted me to shift my dollars from payroll to professional, and that was it for IDA. So Paris report was reopened, resubmitted, and certified.
And as we've done in the past, you're recommending today that we cover some additional CDC bills for that came up just recently related to the annual audit. And so that's part of our Schedule A, but I just want to note that there is sufficient income in our accounts to cover those expenses.
Yes.
Any questions for Mark about the financial report? And if none, if somebody would make a motion to approve the financial report as presented.
I'll make it.
Mary, is there a second?
Lois,
Second.
I'll make it.
Lois made the
Yeah.
second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any abstentions? Any nays? There being none, the financial report for April 30, 2022 is approved as presented. So the schedule of bills, or Schedule A, the payment of bills, we have Whittemore Down and Rick Yardelli for the CDC 2021 audit, $3,025. And then two payments to Fitzgerald Morris Baker Firth, $240 and $256. Total bills to be paid this month would be $3,521. Any comments on those?
Are we structuring this as a loan from the IDA to the CDC?
Yes,
Thank you.
and we'll close that out. Maybe what we'll try to do is close it out before the end of the calendar year.
Yeah.
Instead of moving it into April. So when the CDC meets again, we'll take that up. And we probably should meet at some point in the near future because I probably should have done this as part of my chair report, but the CDC does have an outstanding bond arrangement with the Glens Falls Hospital, and that is under consideration for repayment right now. And so we've received that notification. Connie Cal is our attorney on that matter, and she and both Kara have been notified on that as well.
Oh.
Okay, so is there approval of the payment of bills, the Schedule A as presented?
So moved.
Jane, second. Lois, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Any abstentions? There being none, the bills are approved and shall be paid. And Mark, whenever you're in the office, if you need signatures, let us know. If the mayor's not going to be there, I can come over and sign.
Okay,
And Lois is here, so I believe Lois is here.
I am going to meet at City Hall at 12:30 to sign the checks.
All right, so you're not in Arizona anymore. Okay, very
No.
good.
Unfortunately,
Mm.
All right. So I'm going to move to project reports, and I'm going to introduce Kate Jarish, who just joined us. And I'm going to go right to the third report, which is the Spring City Development Group. Kate, are you ready to go?
I'm ready. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
Yes.
Yes.
And Peter, at some point, Kay may want to join, share the screen with you.
Yeah, that's fine.
Is that fine? Okay, very good. So everyone, Jeff Flagg and the whole team at City Hall have been working with Kate now for some time on this project. And I also had a chance to meet with her earlier this week with Jeff to go over a few items in preparation for this meeting. So Kate, welcome to the IDA board meeting, and please proceed with your presentation.
Thank you so much, Judy. I really appreciate it. Good morning, members of the IDA. It's a beautiful morning. Very excited to tell you about this project, though I'm sure you know a little bit about it, as Spring City Development, excuse me, and Bonaccio Construction are the successful chosen developer of the RFP for the South Street Market Square area. So very excited to delve into it today. I have a short presentation to share with you, and after that, happy to answer any questions that you have. So Peter, I am ready to, okay, thank you. I was trying to prep it as we were going. I said I wasn't available to go. So, all right. Oh. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So the project is the Glens Falls Market Square at South Street redevelopment. It is the redevelopment of 36 Elm Street, 41, 45, and 49 South Street. My name is Kate Jarash. I am the asset manager for Spring City Development Group, better known as the development division of Bonaccio Construction. Though I'm sure you are very familiar with the area, I thought an aerial view just to get a overview of what we were discussing this morning. 36 Elm Street is the white building in the top left. 41 and 45 South are on the right, and then the now vacant lot at 49 South Street is in the bottom left. So these buildings that we are discussing for the project are 36 Elm Street, better known as the Incubator Building. It's about 16,500 square feet. The history of the building is it's a 3-story steel and timber framed building with masonry exterior, bands of oversized windows, huge windows. It's an early 20th century commercial manufacturing location. And it is also a former brownfield. So there's a bit of work to do in that building as we move forward. Renovation, the development plan is to renovate it into a mixed-use building with about 4,400 square feet of commercial on the first floor. That is going to be tied into the new farmers market as it is adjacent, working with the city. Floors 2 and 3 will have residential apartments, and there will be 8 of them between the 2 floors, and they're all sized at 2-bedroom right now. And I say right now because we are in the midst of finishing up the official drawings to design out the space, but just by square footage, that's the size unit that we believe will be in that space. Next, I'm sure you are familiar with 41 South Street, Sandy's Clam Bar. Oh, if I may back up for a second, the 36 Elm is currently owned by the Glens Falls Local Development Corp. 41 South Street, Sandy's Clam Bar, the former Sandy's Clam Bar, about 9,200, almost 9,300 square foot building, 3.5-story brick. Commercial building, Romanesque and Queen Anne details. Most recently, it was Sandy's on the first floor, and it had residential apartments above. It was built around 1897. The development plan for here is to rehab the existing building, keeping within that same mixed use First floor has about 2,300 square feet of commercial space. Floors 2 and 3 will have 3 residential units each for a total of 6. 4 of those look like they will be 1 bedrooms, and 2 of those will be 2 bedrooms. A note on 41 South Street, that is owned by one of our real estate holdings currently. We've owned it since 2019. And we've been paying taxes on that building since then. Obviously, it was of interest to us, given its historic nature. So as soon as it came available by the former owner, we snapped it up to make sure that it was not demolished and did not leave a hole in the South Street corridor. Next is 45 South Street, better known as the Hot Shots building, about 6,900 square feet, 3-story, history of his 3-story mixed-use brick building, first floor commercial, upper floors were residential, built between 1891, 1892 in the late 19th century American style. The plan for this building is, again, historic renovation, rehabilitation, keeping within the most recent use of mixed use. First floor will be approximately 1,600 square feet of commercial space available. Floors 2 and 3 will have 2 residential units per floor for a total of 4, and those look to all be 1-bedroom units at this time. Immediately adjacent, and very excited that it is immediately adjacent, is the vacant lot at 49 South Street. Previously, it was a 1-story commercial building that was raised in 2019. The plans for this are early in development, but depending on who the first floor tenant is, commercial tenant is at 45 South Street, this may be a nice outdoor patio space, again, bringing that vibrancy to South Street if that's the use that goes into that building. So those are the 4 locations, 4 parcels. All of them are owned by the local development corporation, except for 41 South Street. That makes a total of 18 residential units, 8 1-bedrooms, 10 2-bedrooms, and 3 commercial spaces for a total of about 8,300 square feet of commercial. As I said, 4,300 of those are already spoken for, working with the city in the farmers market. The rest of the commercial space, we are still looking for tenants for. However, given the size and given the location, the type of commercial space, the type of commercial tenant that we'd be looking for would be a complement to the redevelopment that is already going on South Street. So law offices, coffee shop, restaurant, professional, a nice mix to revitalize those first floors that have been vacant for so long. Okay. The impact of this project, as I said, Spring City Development and Bonaccio Construction were the chosen developer through the RFP process. Our vision is to restore and revitalize 3 dilapidated buildings in the downtown core, putting those 3 back on the tax rolls. This project creates vibrancy on South Street, a key component to the city's DRI initiative. We are very well aware of that. Create housing opportunities walkable to downtown. We saw with our 14 Hudson project that was completed a few years ago that the idea of being able to live and just be where you're at, walk to wherever you are going, walk to work, walk to the restaurants, walk to the civic center, whatever it was very desirable. Changing up a little bit of price points here between 14 Hudson and here, given that these are rehabs instead of new construction, but still have that vibe of downtown that is, we believe is desirable at a certain price point. And most importantly, create jobs. So right now with the historic renovation, we believe it will be about 20 construction jobs as it goes along. Once it's in operations, it creates 1.5, so it's a 1 and a part-time, up to 2 with a management company. So a manager as well as maintenance for the properties. And then most importantly is the commercial space. We believe with the square footage that is proposed, it's about 15 to 20 jobs, and it's going to be a variety of jobs, variety of wages. Again, as I mentioned, from restaurants to the professional, the management type offices. So very excited to create that mix in downtown. Interestingly enough, I think you've heard me say it a number of times, these buildings are very important to us in our project for their historic nature. We've already delved in, as you saw in the presentation, into their history and the fact that they need to be saved. So they need to be, their exteriors need to be historically preserved and have that facade that they have for years and years in beautiful downtown. And then inside rehab to the certain extent that we can create those spaces, the commercial space and the residential space, keeping with the same character. Whatever we find, we will keep and restore to the best of our ability, obviously, so that it does keep with that nature. But given the fact that it is a historic renovation, it doesn't come without cost and doesn't come without surprises, which is one of the reasons that I am before you today. So our request to the agency that to make this project literally financeable and to be able to move forward is sales tax abatement and mortgage tax abatement for the project. But most importantly, what we are requesting is a 15-year enhanced real property tax abatement. As I mentioned, both 45 and 41 South Street are dilapidated, looking to historically preserve. The potential jobs that are to be created are over 40 when all is said and done. The quality of jobs ranges from the food and beverage and management and that up to a management and professional. The three dilapidated, that's a tongue twister, dilapidated buildings. One of them is a brownfield. Former brownfield. And these 3 historic treasures are very important to downtown, very important to the character of the city, and we look forward to renovating them to their nature. This project, as I said, does not come without cost. The capital investment is about $8 million. And that is about $241 a square foot of rehabilitation costs to get this project done. Just as where does that fit on the range of construction? Just a few years ago when we were doing 14 Hudson, that was about 170. And you can see the building that we got for that 170 versus, now it's not just the nature of historic preservation of this project, of these buildings. It's also the supply chain. It's also rising interest rates. It's also labor is up, materials are up. So not only is it finding surprises that could be costly, it's also just doing the job that doesn't cost what it used to, as we all know. Our pocketbooks are hit with a lot these days, personally and professionally. So I'm going to stop talking, and I hope I've given you a good overview of the project, and I look forward to your questions.
Thanks, Kate, very much for that presentation. And if you can share your slide presentation, if we don't have it saved, if you could share that with Jeff, that'd be great for us to have for our records as well and for the meeting minutes today.
Absolutely.
Let me start with a question on my end, and then I'll open it up to everybody else. At one point, I believe the former Sandy's building, I think that's
41 South.
41 South.
Mhm.
At one point, I think that, and maybe it was the Bonaccio team, but they thought that that it might require demolition. And it appears that obviously it's been you've been able to keep it standing for several years now that you've owned it. Restoring historic properties, I know can be rather expensive. Have you concluded that indeed does not require demolition and it can indeed be preserved?
Yes, you're right. It has lived a few years as a vacant building since we acquired it in 2019. It has continued to deteriorate despite our best efforts, but we still believe at this time that it can be saved. And most importantly, the facade, because it is absolutely beautiful.
Okay. Given the historic nature and the research that you've already done on this, are you looking possibly as part of your financing doing historic tax credits? Is that a potential here?
It is. So we will absolutely apply for the historic tax credits. Both 41 and 45 South are currently eligible. 36 Elm needs some further action by the city to bring it into the district and on the roll. And then that would also be possible, but again, they're credits. So depending on the Park Service approving, there's a lot of steps to go before that. But with or without, we are committed to historically preserving the buildings.
Okay.
If I could just jump in here real quickly along those lines. As Kate said, we are working with the Bonaccio folks. I've been working with both Amber and with Larry Novick on getting 36 Elm. As Kate alluded to, actually, both Sandy's and Hot Shots are listed in 3 Squares Historic District. The 36 Elm is eligible, but is not listed. One of the reasons was there's a little bit of debate, not debate, but a vagary on the year of construction of that building. And so we've been trying to go back. I've been working with Wainwright, the city historian, to try and sort of clearly define. The reason is because normally you have to go back about 50 years for a building to be listed or eligible. That's not a problem with this building. The problem is that the 50-year period starts from when the district was established, and that is 1980. So we have to go 50 years back from 1980 to go back to 1930 that the building has to have been built before. It looks like it was built in the late 20s. The location of that was originally actually Seneca Ray Stoddard, the photographer's house, was located there. It was vacant, apparently torn down, but I think we're pretty close to being able to demonstrate. We've sent some information to the Historic Pres office, and then I haven't heard back from them. The last I heard was that it looked like we had the information that they needed. So we should be moving forward on that. I don't think it'll hold up the project in any way.
Thank you, Jeff.
Members, any questions?
I have to be honest, my only concern is that they seem to be asking for an awful lot of tax abatement, and I don't understand the sales tax one. So if they could explain the sales tax one to me, I would appreciate it.
So Lois, that would be on our side, and it would be on materials that are purchased. And we do this frequently. It is one of the benefits that we can provide to projects. And so they would pay a reduced or no sales tax on some of the materials that they purchase in the area. It helps to keep the cost down for the construction. And so lumber, windows, those types
Yeah,
of things.
okay, you clarified it for me. That's all I wanted to make sure was that it had pertained to the construction materials being brought in.
Yes, I
Perfect.
think, yep.
That's all I needed.
And Lois, when we ask for this, we do not ask for it in a vacuum. We look to see what type of sales tax the project creates thereafter. So, you know, though we are asking for abatement, you know, during the construction to keep the cost down, the further effect of folks living downtown, the businesses that will be there, will be a creation of more sales tax than what we ask for. You know, when we go to Curtis Lumber, I know it's not in the city, but it's just over the line. When we go to Curtis Lumber, that is where that is taken off during construction. But when somebody goes to any of the businesses downtown or spends any of their discretionary spending for years to come, that will pay back tenfold.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Okay, any other questions? So to repeat what I mentioned early on is that we have the application, including those budgets, and we're carefully reviewing those. And as soon as I think Jeff and Kara sign off on that, we'll get copies out to our website and to all the members. And we'll meet again. And if anyone has questions for Kate after this meeting, we can follow up with her, and we'll have some other type of meeting when we take this up for a vote. If we're going to proceed, we'll possibly also have some type of public meeting and public comment period. And so this is the beginning of that process, not the end. And so there's lots of time for folks here to consider this and possibly ask questions later. Very good. Kate, you're welcome to stay in the meeting if you'd like, but I'm going to move on to the next item on the agenda.
Thank you very much for your time this morning.
Thank you, Kate.
Hi, Kate.
Thank you.
So the next item on the agenda is 88 Ridge Royal. Just a quick update on the Queensberry Hotel. Construction there is moving along very well. I know that they are trying very hard to stay on the schedule they originally gave us, because not just because of the sales tax exemption that we awarded to them and the date that would end, but also I believe they already have persons that want to rent that space and do
They're booked, right?
Good.
So, I do not think, and Jeff may update me if I'm wrong, but I don't believe at this time we need to do an extension.
No, I spoke to Ed late last week. He indicated, as you just noted, that they do have bookings. So apparently, come hell or high water, they've decided, whatever it's going to cost, it's over the long term, it's worth it to them to make sure they can get. So they're sort of scrounging around apparently to try and get this done. They don't see anything that's holding them up from a supply chain issue, at least keeping them from getting it done. I think they have bookings for, I want to say late June.
Yep.
So they're including a couple of pretty large conventions. So they look like they're moving forward.
Very good. The next item is 1525 Park Street, which is Elizabeth Miller's project. And they've, I think in the last 2 months, made some substantial improvements, but they had been slowed down considerably because of supply chain. If you drive by now, you'll see a lot more on the exterior of the building going on. They were up on the roof recently, I know, and saw them up there. But I don't believe they're going to meet the deadline that we had originally imposed on that. Kara, do you want to give an update, or Jeff, on that?
Jeff, it's up to you. I can if you want, or if
Go
you.
ahead, Kara. I can add anything I need to.
So I spoke with Elizabeth Miller regarding the status of her project, and it's moving along. Things are just taking additional time. She has gone back through her project figures and is estimating that she's going to be over on her sales tax authorization. Currently, she's authorized at purchases of 2.5 million. She thinks that her total and the last time we went, I just had this pulled up. Where did it go? The last time we revisited her project, she had estimated a total project cost of a little over 4 million. She's now estimating that she thinks her project cost will be about 6.5 million once it's completed. She's hoping to have it done by the end of July, but she's also requesting an increase in the sales tax authorization of an additional 1.5 million in purchases, which is $105,000 in tax exemptions, which is over the general municipal law threshold of $100,000. So that would trigger the need for a public hearing to discuss the increase and whether or not to approve that. But it's in line with the same, it's in line with the same reasonings from before, that the scope of the work has slightly been modified, supply chain issues, costs increasing, and that's where she's at. So.
And I had recommended to Kara by email, just because we try to not meet in August if possible. If anything else were to come up, I was thinking that we would just extend this into September. I think I said, Kara.
Yeah, you said the end of
maybe.
September. I mentioned that to her as well. And she said, like she's hoping that it's, before that, but I explained to her the reasoning why, you had raised that because we don't generally meet, and it would just,
Anything came up, and then it'll be.
Yeah. So,
when would we be able to do that public meeting? We'd do it sometime in May or sometime in June.
Well, her current authorization doesn't expire until June 30th. So you could do it at your next meeting. The only kind of, and it's not related to her project, but the only question is, will we be able to do it virtually, or will we be in person? We won't be, we'll be able to do, we can only be in person. We can only be virtual so long as the executive order is extended, which will be probably this weekend, if we'll find out. So that would be the one question, but we could do it to answer your question, we can do it we can have a public hearing at our June meeting, regardless of where that takes place. And that would be sufficient time if you took action after that public hearing.
Okay. If the members are in agreement and we're going to approve this today, then I recommend we do the public hearing as part of our June meeting, which is June 9th. And then we'll let all the members know as soon as possible if that's going to be in public, and location, if it is in public, if not by Zoom, if we can continue to meet by Zoom. All right. So I'm going to recommend that we move forward. And do we want to do a resolution today, Kara, or do we want to wait till after the public meeting?
Well, we would just need a resolution to schedule the public hearing and authorize that, acknowledge the request. The request is to increase, the request at this time, you wouldn't need a public hearing to extend the date, but to increase the amount, you need a public hearing. And that would be to increase purchases up to 4 million, which is exemptions of 280,000. And to authorize the scheduling of the public hearing.
Okay.
So this is on top of the 280?
No,
Yeah.
it would be total 280
280.
altogether.
Okay, I
Right
got
now,
you.
it's 175.
Okay, gotcha.
And the date extended from June to September.
Okay.
So I'm gonna recommend that we establish a public hearing to consider this matter to increase the amount of the sales tax exemption needed for the property. And in the interim, we'll get an updated budget from Elizabeth if we don't already have that to go over that number. And then at the same time, we can extend the date, even though I think that doesn't require a public hearing.
Right.
We'll take that up at the same time at the June meeting. And so I'll make that resolution. Is there a second?
I'll make it.
Lois, is there all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? Any abstentions? There being none, we'll go forward with that.
Kara,
Yeah.
at a public hearing, would it only be residents of the city that we would entertain comment on, or would it be the people actually suffering the loss of sales tax dollars are not going to be the residents of Glens Falls, as we don't have any supply chain suppliers here. It's going to
Right.
be Queensbury, it's going to be Albany, it's going to be wherever. So do we entertain comments from the greater general public or only from our citizenry?
I think if you're taking comments on any topic, you extend it to whomever's at the meeting or willing to make comments or desires to make comments. So I don't think you can preclude a particular person based on their location, et
Residents.
cetera.
Okay.
Yeah, and Kate's left the meeting, but when she was talking, she's using and I think we knew this from 14 Hudson, that they use a supplier that's the closest supplier to the city of Glens Falls, but we don't have one here.
Right.
And so while it's great, I think that that business that's so close to us is benefiting from these projects. It is not sales tax that is coming into the city. It's town of Queensbury and
Right.
Warren County.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Jeff, anything else to report? Any other projects? Have people been coming in? Have you been giving out applications? Anything that we need to know that we might be seeing in the near future?
No, a few introductory comments with a few developers, but I've not submitted, or nobody has submitted applications or even requested one, so I have nothing at this time.
Okay. Very good.
Judy, I didn't know if you wanted to do it this month or next month, a discussion on how you want to proceed with video conferencing and the board's options with the new legislation.
Yes. So we did talk about this, I think, a little bit last month as part of the New York State budget that was passed in early April. There were provisions that we will have to follow going forward. And at the time that the executive order is finalized and we can no longer meet remotely, there are provisions in the law that will allow us to do some remote meeting. We, as a industrial development agency that follows the Public Authority Accountability Act, and we report through to the government agencies through the ABO on a regular basis, we're required to continue to meet in the way that we currently do with a YouTube filing. And Peter has been doing that for us for some time. That's going to continue. There are provisions in the law that could allow members, if necessary, to participate remotely if it's in compliance with a rule that we would set. And so Kara has been going to some meetings about this and consulting with some other law firms and associations across the state. And we can at some point put together a new policy regarding this. And so let me turn that over to you, Kara, and just talk a little bit more about some of the things that we may want to consider in such a policy.
Okay, so the general gist is that the legislature has a preference for in-person meeting. I attended a conference with the Committee on Open Government. They were charged with taking a survey across the state of various types of public bodies. There was a general consensus among those bodies that they would like to have some virtual option. So they were a little bit surprised in some respects that this is what the legislature came back with for video conferencing options. The law is in effect until July of 2024, and the Committee on Open Government needs to report back within a year to tell the legislature how it's working. So I would expect some more amendments at some point in the future. But for now, until June 8th or until the executive order is extended, we can meet how we've been meeting. Once the executive order for the pandemic expires, we will need to go back to in-person. So there will need to be a quorum of members in person, and a member can participate by video conference only under an extraordinary circumstance. So the extraordinary circumstance language or term is not defined in the law. So that definition is left up to the boards to make a determination as to what you want to define an extraordinary circumstance as. So some boards are taking the position that they would like to identify certain reasons: illness, travel, weather, all those types of obvious items that would make a reason why you couldn't attend in person. Some boards are taking the position that they want to make this very vague, and it would be, as determined on a case-by-case basis by the executive director, the CEO, the mayor, whoever that person is that they delegate to make that determination. If a person is appearing by video conference, they must be on video for the duration of the meeting. So the video camera must be on. If there's not an in-person quorum, they can't count towards the quorum and they can't vote. So they would just, there would be no meeting essentially if there's not an in-person quorum. The other thing is that you have to adopt this by resolution, your policy, but you have to have a public hearing before you can adopt that. So depending on how you want to proceed, we can put together something. There's a multitude of drafts going around about this, but it's basically the same. It's a repeat of the statute, and just really the determination that if this is something you wanted to offer to yourselves as board members, it would really be, how do you want to define this extraordinary circumstance? Everything else comes right from the statute, basically. We have a little bit of a benefit because we've been doing this live streaming for so long, so that's not going to change. That doesn't change for us. The other item is that the existing video conferencing language in the statute remains intact. So what it currently says is that if you want to participate by video conference and you want to allow the public to participate with you where you are, then you can continue to do that. So if somebody was going to be out of town for 3 months and they were like, I don't care if they participate with me in Florida, here's my address in Florida. And then that would be in the notice. That can still continue as long as if you're open to the public, your location video conference, then you count towards the quorum. It's a little bit confusing.
No sense.
Not really the most simplest. Well, I'm assuming we're going to see more amendments to it, but that's what we have now until 2024.
So could we do language that said reviewed on a case-by-case basis by the chairman of the agency, such review to include the concepts of positive percentage of pandemic numbers in the county, so that we have some sort of out if we're currently in 12% or whatever, that would just be an automatic for some people.
I think that makes perfect sense, Jane. Yeah, I mean, we're at a point now where we're on an upswing now. We don't know where we're going to be like in a month or 2 or 6 months. Not that I wouldn't love to see you all in person in City Hall, but I'd like you to also keep your germs out of City Hall.
Well, the good
Right.
news is you can always participate by Zoom because it only applies to board members.
Members, right, yeah,
Oh,
right.
well,
So you
right,
don't
but we
We'll
want
find you, Patrick.
right, but we want to
We'll
give
breathe
the,
on you.
that's a great point. I didn't realize that, but we do want to give the board members the flexibility. I think,
Yeah,
Yes.
well,
especially.
the
Go ahead,
one
Sarah.
issue is that it's somewhat flexible, but not, because we have to have an in-person
quorum.
quorum. We can't opt out of that option. So there has to be an in-person quorum. So we're gonna have to know somewhat in advance, are we having an in-person quorum? Who's using the extraordinary circumstance exception and appearing by Zoom? That's gonna have to be. And so what the recommendation is that we change our public hearing notice to always say that one or more members may be participating virtually due to extraordinary circumstances. If the notice doesn't say that, nobody can participate by Zoom.
Virtually, gotcha. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
So
because I
it's
mean,
not-
virtual.
Yeah, I mean, if say the COVID numbers went up really high and we're having a problem and the executive order has been lifted, we can't all decide, well, we're gonna appear remotely. That's not an option unless the governor has the emergency order in effect.
All right, now, but with Peter's equipment and whatever, it's not like we could decide to meet out in the park. I mean, there's got to be some flexibility. Well, we petitioned the governor to.
I think it raises issues about technology and what technology the city has, and possibly may require a change in location where we do meet jointly because of that. So I think we've got to talk about those things. Let me suggest that we do the following. Since the mayor's not with us today, why don't we have Kara and the mayor and Jeff and Patrick and myself sit down and see if we want to even put forward a draft for the members to consider in June. And we'd get that out to people in advance and then possibly do a meeting in June, like an initial policy. Or maybe what we'll do is push it off until down the road. But if we can get something out to people, at least you'd be able to take a look at it.
If we push it off down the road, Judy, it doesn't leave anyone the opportunity to to appear virtually. So I think I agree with you. The sooner we get this, something, we can always amend it later, for God's sake.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, yeah, you can, yeah. Because you have to have this public hearing. So the public hearing, there's no direction in the law about what the timing and things like that. So, we'd recommend, just like you'd have any other public hearing, at least 10 days notice, all that. So that would be a requirement before you could adopt this. And I've seen a couple so far flying around, and most of them are pretty broad with respect to the extraordinary circumstance. They list things, including but not limited to the following, that type of thing. It's really just going to be a little bit of an administrative work on the board's end to see who is going to utilize an extraordinary circumstance, who's going to be in person. Because like I said, if there's no in-person quorum, there's no meeting.
No meeting, right.
And we'll see what happens this weekend. If it gets extended, the pandemic again, then we'll still be operating like we currently are. If it's extended for another 30 days.
But even if that's the case, we want to be able to have this conversation at the next meeting.
Yeah.
Right. No, I agree. But that might give us a little buffer if it's
right. But if it is a 10-day, if we want to do a 10-day, that puts us the Tuesday after Memorial Day to have this notice out.
Right.
Which is 2.5 weeks from today. So
well, you need to before we can schedule the public hearing, you need to have a draft in front of you that's what the public hearing is going to be on. So we would have to have a draft that the board is comfortable with, then notice that public hearing, and go from there.
Okay,
Right. So
Now-
steal something from somebody and let's go. Right.
Yeah, and
Basically, yeah.
I want to confirm too, we can always meet. We can't take a vote, right? We can always meet, we can always discuss something, but if we don't have that quorum or that in-person quorum, we just can't vote.
Correct.
Correct.
Well, it's
Yeah,
not
it's not
considered
a
a
meeting.
meeting. Right.
Right. It's
not a
not,
meeting.
it's-
It's a
It's-
group of
I mean, I
people,
don't agree there.
like-minded people gathering together to chat. Right.
okay. So, and as Kara mentioned before, the law is only just about 2 years anyways. And so we do believe that they're looking for comment on this to see if it works. And so we're expecting there may be some amendments. And so there's already been that discussion going on in Albany. So whatever it is that we have today, I think 2 years from now is going to change anyways. So we can do something now, but I think, 2 years from now, it's going to be probably need to be
Different.
okay. All right, so I'll talk to the mayor, and Patrick and Jeff and Kara will get together probably pretty quickly and bring this up and try to get something in draft out to everybody.
Great.
All right. Any other business to come before the IDA board? Okay, our next meeting is June 9th, and we'll be in touch, I think, on these other issues in the interim, both in terms of the project that Kate presented, in terms of getting that out to the folks, and then this matter concerning our next meeting. And I think the same will be true for the LDC. And so I think what I've already said to the mayor, and I think he agrees, that whatever we do for the IDA, we do for the LDC, for the CDC, and maybe some of the other city public authorities, so that the city is following the same rule for open meetings for all of its entities. I think urban renewal is one of the others. So hopefully it'll all be the same. Okay, so I'll take a motion to adjourn the IDA meeting.
I'll make it.
Second,
Second.
second, Mary, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so we're already at 9:00,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna call together the the Greater Glens Falls Local Development Corporation meeting. This is our May 12th, 2022 meeting. We have a quorum, and our staff, key advisors, consultants, and guests are here as well. There is no chair report today. I am going to run the meeting on behalf of Mayor Collins, who is out sick, and administrative reports first. We have the minutes from the annual meetings, both the joint committee meetings and the annual meeting itself from March 10th. Any comments or changes that people would like to recommend for the drafts that you received? There being none, is there a motion to approve those minutes as presented from March 10th?
I'll make it.
Lois, second.
Second.
Jane, all in favor?
Aye.
Any nays, any abstentions? There being none, those minutes are approved. Then we have the minutes from the April 14th meeting from last month. Again, everyone's has a copy of that. Any changes that you'd like to make for those recommendations? There being none, is there a motion to approve the April 14th meeting minutes as presented?
So moved.
Jane, second. Lois, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Minutes are approved. Financial report for April 2022. Mark, any comments?
No income. Fitzgerald had bills that totaled $832 under legal. Gallagher Insurance was the initial payment was that's a $4,800 excuse me, $4,893. I think going forward, our monthly insurance charges will be $1,094, which is different than the past when we had to pay lump sum as of April. Now it's the initial payment then, I think it's 10 installments. Account temps payroll, $2,422. All the cash accounts have been reconciled. The loans are all reconciled. The only active loan is Hank's. On the Paris report, there was no request for any updates or adjustments from the Paris, from the ABO. That is it.
Any questions for Mark? I do recommend at some point that that you meet and report back to the board. This is a matter for the mayor and Patrick to take up regarding the Samantha's loan, which is still in default. And so maybe over the next month or two, you could gather and determine what we're going to do with that matter in compliance with the USDA directions that we received.
Okay.
Before we do approval of that, I just want to go to the Schedule A quickly. You've got a 36 Elm Street bill to pay for insurance. Is that something that can be, let's assume for the moment that in 3 months from now, we sell that property to the Bonaccio team. I can't remember their name. Do we get reimbursed on that, or is that just 6 months worth of insurance?
Yeah, I hope, I think we talked with Patrick on that. Hopefully we'll get a check back, I guess, from Bonaccio once the sale goes through. So that, I think the Elm Street property, probably of the total insurance, that probably runs about $4,000. So we should, I would think, get half of that back, I would imagine, at some point.
Now, Mark, have we, maybe I misunderstood you. I thought that we used to pay on an annual basis and now they've gone to a 10-month basis. Is that correct?
Yes, we used to pay the whole 14 to 15,000 in April, yes.
Okay, so is our annual year running from April 1st to March 31st? So it would just be a proration back if any of this hasn't been spent by then, depending on our closing date. Yep. That's all.
Yep.
Okay. So is there a motion to approve the financial report as presented for April 2022?
So moved.
Mary, the second. Lois, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. The financial report is, no, any abstentions, any nays? There being none, the financial report is approved as presented. So I'm not going to redo the virtual meeting update, but the minutes can reflect what we reported for the IDA meeting.
What about the payment of bills, Judy?
I'm going to do, yep, payment of bills. So we got a lot of those.
I think Kara would like us to do the payment of bills, Judy.
I think account temps too, and Whittemore Dowan, and Whittemore Dowan wants $4,950. We got to pay that insurance.
Yep.
Insurance for us. And just briefly, Mark explained that we've got Rosinski Hall overpaid for their final loan payment, so we're going to reimburse them for $422.21. That was an overpayment by them on their final payout.
Yes. Yep.
So Rosinski Hall, we had a loan with them, and I don't think it expired until next year. They went ahead and paid that early. Is that correct?
Correct.
And they overpaid. Okay,
yeah.
So we'll give them some money back.
They had paid January, then they went ahead and paid the January, the entire amount again when they made their balloon payment in March.
Okay.
Gotcha.
They included January, which they had already paid.
Right.
Okay. So total LDC operating expenses are $10,167.04. And then we're also being asked to approve under the DRI account $7,822.50 to LARAC. Is this a reimbursement of funds they've already spent? I
Yes.
don't know, Jim or Patrick,
Yes,
yes?
it is. Yeah, it was, and forgive me because Jeff and Jim could probably answer or fill in if I need to, but this is part of the DRI Arts Trail. And it was money that was spent already by LARAC that we are paying them back for.
Reimbursing. And we've got, okay, and so we'll be able to submit this to DRI, to the state and get reimbursed for that, right?
Correct.
Very good. Okay. To approve the Schedule A payment of bills, is there such a motion?
I'll make it.
Mary, second.
Second.
Jane, all in favor?
Aye.
Any nays, any abstentions? There being none, the bills shall be paid. And I already heard Lois is going to be at City Hall, so we'll get those checks signed. Let's see. Any other reports before we do project reports? Patrick, anything?
Nothing, no.
Project reports, downtown revitalization, DRI. We've already talked quite a bit about that. Anything more to report?
I'm gonna leave that to my learned colleague to answer.
Just very, excuse me, briefly, in the interest of time, Mayor Collins and I met with Envision the middle of last week to get some revised drawings. We had to approve some revisions to the main, basically to keep the project within budget. They had been planning to come up, the folks from Envision, but several of them contracted COVID, so we did it remotely. We did this in anticipation of, hopefully, we're going to get some further revisions after the mayor sort of weighed in, more or less sort of design changes for logistics and things for different kinds of events. And we're hoping to do some sort of a public presentation, I would say probably within the next several weeks. So we're going to be meeting with them again, quietly or privately, the end of next week, in anticipation of a date to sort of present to the public the project itself.
Okay. And Jeff, obviously we just heard from Kate Jarish and heard extensively of the plans that they have for their piece of the DRI, but that is subject to the sale of land that the LDC controls, and I know that is in a 90-day window. When does that run out? And
Yeah, that
how's it
shouldn't.
being
Yeah,
handled?
yeah, that shouldn't be a problem time-wise. The 90-day window expires on June 29th. So provided that we even whether the IDA board approves their application for support in the June meeting or even the July meeting, will pretty much be running concurrently with the public comment period for the sale of the properties. There's also been a resolution to sell, remember, 49 South. The city council passed a resolution to sell the 49 South, which of course the city owns as opposed to the LDC.
So and I keep saying there's 3 properties, but there's 4 properties. So 2 are controlled by the LDC, 1 by the city and 1 by Bonaccio.
Correct.
Good.
Okay. Anything else on DRI? Any questions for Jeff or for Patrick? Small Business Recovery Fund, CDBG CV, you sent out Patrick some documents.
Right, yeah, this is we discussed this last month. This is the Homes and Community Renewal, which is the state agency, got money from HUD to do what amounts for us to a 3rd round of CARES Act money. The focus of this money is less about how you were hurt during the pandemic and more about how we can support businesses that have changed or have had to change their business model during the pandemic. So there's about $345,000 in that account, in that grant that 2 board members and Pat Tadish, who I've not yet met, will be working to review the applications. What I sent out yesterday, a little late, unfortunately, I apologize for that, was the application that was developed by the fabulous Jim Thatcher, with, I'm sure, some input from other people before I arrived, because this was all going on long before I got here. So, but we're in the process of finalizing the contract. I believe it should be going back to HCR in the next day or two, and we will then be able to get the authorization date to begin getting the application out. We already have, Jeff, I believe you have 1 or 2 people who are interested. I know I have 1. And then once those are out, then we will send them out to, either prospects or to people who ask for it.
And are you going to promote it on the city's website or
We
send
will,
out?
yep. We didn't want to do that until you all had an opportunity to look at it and make sure that it was within whatever specs are required.
And the funds are reimbursable, not
Correct.
direct
Yeah,
pay?
this is different than the CARES Act, where the other 2 CARES Acts, where we wrote a check. Basically, it's a you purchase, give us the receipt, and we will reimburse you.
And is it through the Housing Trust Fund Corporation or through HCR?
As far as I know, it's through HCR. I'd have to go look at the enacting documents to answer that question.
There is no such legal entity as HCR, so it's either through the Division of Housing and Community Renewal or the Housing Trust Fund Corporation. I think it's Housing Trust Fund Corporation.
Okay, well that yes, I'd have to look. I appreciate that. All the documents that I get come from HCR, so I didn't realize there was no such organization as that.
In name only. I say that only because if it is Housing Trust Fund Corporation, just like us, they are a public authority and they have a board, and those things have to be approved by their board. And so that can cause delay in flow of funds. And so you're going to need to know that.
Yeah, I mean, the letter that we got came from Homes and Community Renewal. The contract, you are correct. The Housing Trust Fund Corporation, represented by the Office of Community Renewal. So it is the Housing Trust Fund Corporation.
If you'd like me to take a look at it for you, I'd be happy to. I used to run the place. So I'm going to call upon the members to preliminarily approve the forms that Patrick sent out to us, subject to final changes, if any, are imposed by the Housing Trust Fund Corporation based on the contract that's pending. Is there such a motion to approve the forms as presented?
So moved.
Jane, second, Lois. Jane or Lois and Mary, all in favor?
Aye.
Forms shall be approved.
Thank you kindly. There are at least 3 businesses who are going to be very happy.
Good.
Okay. And we'll hear more about that next month, right, Patrick?
Yep, we will give you a report. I will plan to do it monthly. Just a quick update as part of the regular meeting agenda.
Okay. And any other business? Patrick, anything? Jim?
Yeah, the only thing I wanted to also bring up was the second email that I sent yesterday afternoon. As part of the DRI, the LDC is the receiver, I suppose. And Jim and Jeff, if this is incorrect, please let me know. But I gotta fly sometime, so I figured this is a good opportunity to do that. The DRI is the the LDC is a grantee from the DRI of $125,000 to fund this program where, for all intents and purposes, a number of artists are going to be putting the big murals up on a number of buildings throughout the city, as you've seen done. Suzanne has sent us a number of them over the last week or so from cities across the country. Glasgow does a number of them, very kind of either regionally appropriate or appropriate to the building. Huge, basically, pieces of art that go on the side of the building. The LARAC and the arts group, whose name I can't think of now right off the top of my head, went through a selection process and have chosen the first 3 artists who are going to participate in this program. The locations and the initial designs are in that email that I sent you. But basically, the resolution that I sent was a request to allow me to, or Jeff or the mayor, to manage this without, to sign the contracts basically with the artists to go ahead and move ahead with the project. Jim, is that a good enough summary?
Pat, I think that's a very good summary. I mean, I think members have heard about this arts project for quite a while. Of the $125,000 DRI grant for the arts trail, there's approximately 80,000, 70 to 80,000 that can be committed or used for these public arts project. There were sculptures originally planned. They, you know, the city and the LDC have been pretty hands-off with choosing installations or anything about where these things go or what they look like, which is probably appropriate. Let the arts community deal with the style and the choice of installations. So right now it's mostly murals and at least 3 to start for about $50,000 of that budget. It'll be fully reimbursable through the DRI, through Homes and Community Renewal. And they have finally done their call to artists and sort of followed our procurement guidelines sufficiently, I think, to allow them to have project agreements or contracts, if you will, with the LDC. And these are all on private property. So the issue with public property or putting a sculpture in City Park or at the library or whatever has sort of taken a back seat to these murals. The grant funds go until September, so we want to get the artists underway if all their ducks are in a row, and it appears that they've finally done enough homework to get to this point. So rather than wait another month, Patrick wanted to get your authority to kind of administer this now, boots on the ground, so to speak, and get things going. But yeah, he did a very good job with the summary.
So let me, for the purpose of the minutes, we would be covering 50% of these project costs. There's 3 murals. The first mural is at 144 Glen Street, or the Domino's building. The total mural project cost is $19,000. Through the DRI, we would be covering $9,500 of that. The second mural is for 103 Warren Street, which is a wall facing east. Not sure where that is.
That's it's the old, I forget what the name of it is. It's next to the former car dealership on Warren Street. So it's the Apostolic Fellowship building now.
Right.
Total cost is $20,348. The DRI payment would be for $10,174. And the third mural is 20 Warren Street, the former Morin Dive Shop. And that mural project cost is $10,050 total. And then the DRI share is $5,025.
For those of you who don't know where the Marin shop was, it's across the parking lot from St. Mary St. Alphonsus School.
Right. This would face the school.
Correct.
The side of the school. Correct.
Yes.
Just out of curiosity.
Hopefully it won't be anything offensive to
it's flowers.
It's flowers, right? Yes.
So that seemed all right. But Does, Patrick, Jim, does anyone know whether or not there was much competition for this? Or was this project of interest to local artists? Or
Oh,
was
sure. I think there were 7
Okay.
that we know of, right, Jim, that got to the process of being proposed.
Yeah, there were at least 7. I think they sent me folders, or sent Pat folders of samples and proposals for different buildings. At least 7 to 9.
Okay.
They
I
do-
just wondered whether or not this was an idea whose time had come past before we ever got there, you know?
Yeah.
Well, it's been a while.
Right. Yeah, no, I'm pleased with how the results seem to shake out. And we let the Arts District of Glens Falls, which is a loose collaboration of arts groups through LARAC, kind of handle this whole process. We just had to sort of make sure they stayed within, in the right government lanes for procurement and documentation. And that's been the struggle somewhat for, almost 2 years, I'd say now. So I think we're finally almost ready to rock and roll, hopefully. So.
Well, and really thanks go to Jim and Jeff. I came in at the 11th hour to deliver this to you. They did all of the work. So I want that to be noted as well.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And we've been told by LARAC that the 7,800 you're paying them now, which came in already as a drawdown. So it's not LDC money that was used partially for banners and other things, that they're going to plow that back into some of these artist payments. So it's a good partnership with the city and the LDC. It's something they've been coming to Jeff's office to bug him about for months on end, and we just like put our hands at their forehead, just run in place and do what we say, and we are going to do this with you. Be patient, and looks like it's starting to work out. So
Actually, all I did was point them to Jim. And said,
So the artist for the first mural for the 144 Glen Street is Jesse Melanson. For mural number 2 at 103 Warren Street is Tony Artizone. And the artist for mural number 3 at 20 Warren Street is Hannah Williams. And Patrick is showing those
yeah.
abstract designs.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So this has been presented to us in writing, and we see, I think, pictures of all the designs, including the flowers that our St. Mary's kids will be looking at. Is there a motion to approve this as presented?
So moved.
Jane, second.
Second.
Lois, all in favor?
Aye.
It is passed. Please go forward
And prosper.
and prosper and get it done so we can get reimbursed before September. I gotta move fast.
Right.
Weather dependent.
Yeah.
Actually, our weather's pretty good. They could start today. Okay, guys, I don't have any other business. Do you, Patrick?
No, ma'am.
No? Kara, anything? No? Very good.
Nope, nothing else.
Here we are, 9:26. Do you want me to wait till 9:30 to adjourn?
Quick, Mark, where are you gonna leave the checks? With Suzanne or with, who you leaving the checks with?
I'll leave with Bernie.
Okay, perfect,
All right.
perfect. Thank you.
All right, next meeting, Thursday, June 9th, following the IDA meeting, starting at 8 a.m. Thank you all. Motion to adjourn, please.
Motion
Megan,
to adjourn.
Lois, Mary, all in favor.
Aye.
Bye, everybody. Good seeing you.
Aye. Good to see you
Peter.
too.
Take care.
bye, everybody.